Why don't we start off with the news over the weekend? We saw the president post about this, a 50-year mortgage. The 30 year has been the standard here in the U.S. We also, in all fairness, offer 15-year mortgages.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on a 50-year mortgage, and what would that do to home prices, the idea of a longer mortgage?
So it's interesting. We ran the math. It's about $120 in savings per month. It increases buying power by about 5%, so call it $20,000. But it's not a clean shot, right? There's things to consider. One, the average home buyer, first-time home buyer, is 40 years old. So many of these folks are going to be deceased before the mortgage is mature. The other thing to keep in mind is that it doubles the amount of interest that you pay over the term of the loan versus a 30-year. So, it's actually building equity becomes more challenging.
Yeah, that was really what I was leading you to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to make every house considerably more expensive over time. And we're trying to make homes more affordable,
right.
But while it make it affordable month to month, I guess long-term obviously would increase the cost. Hit on the other thing I want to talk to you about. So I was very surprised by this. It came out actually last year from the National Association of Realtors. The average home buyer is 56 years old.
Yep, that's right.
The average new home buyer is 38. Both of those numbers considerably elevated over the historical averages. What does that mean for the home market going forward? As you mentioned, like even a 30-year mortgage, if you're buying a house at 56, you're going to be considerably older by the time you pay it off. And even a first-time buyer, I mean, you're going to be hypothetically, on today's standards, retired by the time you finally pay the house off. What does that say for what does that mean for the housing market?
So I think it's not all bad, Frank. Look, if you think about it, the buyer, the first-time buyer, which is actually closer to 40 today, has done things later in life. Many of these folks are millennials that are better financed than previous generations, right?
They're better financed?
They're
really?
better financed.
Okay.
They've been in the employment world for longer, and they've held off on things like marriage and child rearing, things that necessitate more space. And you know what? That buyer becomes a very motivated buyer at the point of time when these things happen.
But according to your research, it's actually cheaper to rent than to buy now. So doesn't that take away some of the motivation, the idea that you can rent and save money? And also, you pointed out they're just better financed than they may have been in previous generations or years. But also, more of these people are in the stock market. They're putting their money in other places as opposed to a home. And some of the sentiment around the quote-unquote American dream has changed. How does that all balance out for the housing market?
Yeah, I don't know that the American dream has changed. I think that this millennial generation, for instance, and I don't mean to pick on millennials, but there was a lot of talk that this was going to be a renting generation. They weren't going to buy cars. It was going to be all Ubering. They weren't going to buy houses. That changes as they hit these life events, and they're no different than any prior generation where they want to own. They want their children to have, a backyard and a white picket fence.
Okay. Here's what's different. Home builders, they're buying down mortgages more than they ever have before.
Yeah.
You're saying your top pick is the home builders. How sustainable is the buy downs? How much can that generate demand for buying homes at the same time maintain profitability and margins?
So the builders are still running at margins that are above GFC trough levels, despite the fact that they're offering incentive loads that are, call it 9 to 10% of the sale price of a home. So that's 3 times the amount of normal incentives. So they've done an incredible job of creating efficiencies throughout the build process that can offset this. I think the buy downs are a really critical point of driving demand. Now, I don't see any reason why it stops until consumer confidence can actually improve and the market can actually improve. And I think there's a lot of positive signs as we head into next year that may very well happen.
To that point, you have a buy on pretty much all the home builders, KB Home, Lennar, Meritage, Pulte, Toll Brothers. So a lot of buys here.
Yeah. No, we like the group, and I think the setup heading into next year is decidedly positive.